Hi, everybody. Welcome to Custody Matters Live. My name is Danica Joan with my co-host, Bud Vino.
Danica, as you said, Bud Vino with the host of Custody Matters Live, Danica Joan. It is Wednesday, February 5th. We're recording on the day we're airing, Danica. That's great, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're very excited. Everybody can see Danica is glowing, and so is our guest. I'm going to let Danica introduce our awesome guest. But look at Danica glowing. She's come back from Key West, Florida, ladies and gentlemen, and she is radiating. Not that you don't usually, but as I said off the air, it's great to have you back, my friend. I feel whole again, Danica.
Well, thank you. Thank you for missing me. It was a really great time. It's hard for me to be away too many days without me feeling a little bit like a little wonky. So I'm actually glad I'm back, especially with what we have that we're creating over the next few months. So, and that brings us to our special guest today, which is Dawn McCarty. She is, oh, I forgot, Dawn, you're going to explain to me what your title is. It has to do with the National Parents Organization. Welcome, Dawn.
The chair for Florida, now I'm stumbling. National Parents Organization of Florida, and I'm the chairperson for it.
See, let me, first of all, thank you, Dawn, so much. This is an exciting one because, Dawn, we work together, all of us, behind the scenes on the conference. These little quote-unquote snafus, these little stutterings and things are what make the show awesome and organic. So again, you guys are awesome, and Dawn, we're so happy to have you on. You do so much work, behind the scenes, and now in front of the, right here, we thank you for all the effort you put in. And as Danica said too, you work tirelessly for your organization. What is it exactly that drew you and Danica together? I know you have a story behind the scenes with that.
Oh, for Danica and I. So I've been going around the state and putting on screenings for erasing families. And we've kind of started what we're calling an impact campaign to bring awareness and to help get the information out there about people that may not even know that they've been erased or that they have been separated from a loving family member. So Danica and I were at a screening together, and it's like, hey, I know you, and it was so fast, and before I knew it, the night was over. So a couple of months went by, and I thought, oh, we got to get together. We're so close. There's no reason why her and I can't do something in the state. And I wanted to have a conference, a shared parenting conference or something along that line. So I thought, I'm going to call Danica. So out of the blue, I said, hey, I need to talk to you. And it was funny because we both have the same ideas. So it was really good to be able to come together and consolidate our resources and, brainstorm and figure out how to put this amazing event together.
Oh, and it truly is an amazing event. And it's just been, everything has just been coming together with so much synergy and just divine right order around this, because it's not our conference is happening at the end of May, April 24th and 25th, is called the Guardians and Gatekeepers Conference for professionals who are dealing with clients who are dealing with custody situations. So what makes this one really unique is not only did all of the amazing speakers come out of the woodwork so quickly, but all of us are in collaboration to create and make this thing happen. So Dawn, we get to see you every Monday for our planning meeting and everything. So it's like personal to us. Don't you agree?
I agree. Yeah, it's definitely feels like something that we're putting together that is really meaningful for both of our causes, because we have different things, but we're all able to come together and really highlight on all of it. So it really works good to collaborate and include everything that we can that promotes family and advocacy.
Danica, Dawn, incredible. Danica, speaking of collaboration, I forgot to mention our affiliation with the Dad Talk Today network. And so that's, again, my apologies. That, again, this is our second show, I believe, with the network. So it may take me a little bit. I'm slow, but I catch up. So shout out to Eric Carroll, Chris Gannon over there at Dad Talk Today, and all the shows over there. The network is pushing 70,000 people now, Danica.
That's
so
amazing.
Of that. And also give a shout out to Eric Carroll and the network for putting together that awesome cartoon, Custody Matters Live.
Awesome. Awesome. And I will be on his show on February 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Look, see, organic. It just happens
I
the way
know.
it's supposed to. So, yeah, Eric's great over there. He surprised Danica and I yesterday morning.
Oh, yeah?
It put a smile on our faces. So, again, speaking of collaboration, Dawn, Danica, you mentioned too, and you did too, Dawn, that energy and that support behind the scenes, and everybody. I feel like a kid on Christmas morning every time I go in there because everybody is so excited. So it's great to have you as part of that, and very, very natural. And I can't wait. Again, you're going to be one of those people that gets that hug down in Florida because Dr. Mark Roseman is going to be there, everybody, and a plethora of other people. And Dr. Mark, I'm going to give him a very genuine hug. He can't wait neither.
He loves hugs. Yep.
He does.
So Dawn is our first spotlighted guest and speaker at the conference that we're bringing here on Custody Matters Live, because over the next few weeks, what we'd like to do is to just showcase each speaker that's going to be at the conference to kind of get your juices going so that you are, so that we actually see you and get to meet all of these people in person. You'll be able to meet Eric Carroll, who's the Dad Talk Today network founder. You'll be able to meet Bud and myself and Dawn and so many other amazing
Live and in person.
Yeah.
Yes, as we said when we had the show with a variety of different guests, and we able to pinch them. Dawn will be right there, but not hard, just enough that we know that no, she's winning.
So Dawn, can you share with us a little bit about what you're going to be speaking about at the conference?
Sure. With National Parents Organization, our goal is 50-50 equal shared parenting. The default for that in improving our state statutes. So NPO has done a study on each of the states and evaluated all of their state statutes and gave them a grade as far as what their shared parenting laws actually cover. Now, this is on the statute level, not the court systems. They didn't go in and judge, how the actual court system is conducting their custody issues and cases. So based on statutes, there is a grade that each state has received, and Florida has received a C+, which is up from a C from the last study that they had done. So we went up just a little bit, but we really want to do much better than that. There's only 2 states in the country that received an A, and that is Kentucky is the first one actually, and then Arizona got an A-. So they're really closely following Kentucky. There's a bunch of states that are really working hard right now that are really close to getting some kind of laws passed. And of course, with laws, it's a constant improvement. We have to constantly keep at it. So Florida actually has a law on the floor, not a law, a bill on the floor right now in the House and the Senate. And they're going through the subcommittees. And it's part of the dissolution of marriage law. So we have some excerpts and some blurbs in this law that is trying to make that default shared parenting automatic right off the bat. So when when people are going through divorce, it is the presumption that they will have 50-50. So shared parenting. So we are really trying to work with our legislators and with the people in Florida. So that's one thing that Erasing Families really comes in handy, because it gets me out there in front of people, and we can start to get some motivation and movement behind it, and get people calling the representatives, because that's how we get laws passed, is by the voters. So that's kind of what our impact campaign really is focused on. So the more we show the film, which I want to take to every city in Florida. So this is kind of like going to be our big official premiere, I'm hoping. So the bigger we make this conference, the better we make this conference, the more kickoff we get, and the more momentum I think we will get from it.
Awesome. Something I want to be clear about, because I actually, not too long ago, I had a conversation with a retired judge, and he very much loved his role as a family court judge, and his what he stood for is, what was the best interest of the child. So he was actually against 50-50 in the state of Florida and was very instrumental in shooting it down that first time. And what I was just wanting to listen to what it was on his side of the fence, what had him think think the way he thought. And I still am not quite sure, because it's my understanding that when the legislature says, okay, we're going to be a 50-50 shared parenting state, it doesn't mean that a judge has lost their power to say, you know what, that child would not thrive if they were 50-50 with.
So you're talking about discretion, the judge having some discretion.
Yeah.
There's another not misunderstanding, but I think a lot of the confusion is that when we're talking about shared parenting statutes, we're talking about both parents having equal standing in the child's mind. So to the child, mom and dad are equal parents. So it's not about, I mean, it is, but it's not. The initial concept is, first, we got to establish that both parents have rights to access to their children, right? And then time. Time is a different aspect of this. So yes, we want parents to have as much equal time as possible, as close to 50-50 as we can get it. So that, comes in with family dynamics and being able to actually adjust that. So when people first hear about this, and a lot of the people start talking about, you can't have 50-50, it's never going to work, a lot of it is because they think it's the time, but it's actually the status. I'm an equal parent to the other parent.
Awesome, Dawn. Thanks for pointing that out. That's very important. That's something that Dawn is very correct about. Some people have a different view of what that means in their head. So, as we know, sometimes exact 50-50 time sharing isn't always possible for the child. And that's where, again, it gets confused. It's 50-50 legal custody, joint custody, meaning the same rights, both parents.
Right. Even temporarily, in both situations, right?
Sure, being able to go to the child's school, being able to check on them, going to their doctor's appointments, showing that support and love. That's what it's all about for that child. So
making decisions together. Yep.
Hats off to you, and also to Ginger Gentile. I know, obviously, I believe she was mentioned with A Racing Family, and the work that she's doing is amazing. And also, speaking of legislation, Mr. Mark Ludwig with Americans People Share Parenting, who is a wonderfully awesome man, and he works tirelessly to change legislation. And again, hats off to Kentucky. I know they were a little while back. It was a huge deal, as it should be.
And Missouri. Missouri's right in there right now, too. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work being done on so many different levels, and that's what I think is really great, that it's not going to be one avenue, one path. There's so many different things that we are elevating this issue, and each group elevates it a little bit more. And, so it's great that everybody is starting to, I think, get some traction.
Well, Great way to put it, Danica.
Oh, no, well, I was just going to say, I've always been a stand for 50-50 in that both parents have equal rights. That's so important, because if you feel like back in the day, several decades ago, where it was presumed that mom was the best fit parent to raise the children, while dad could be marginalized and just, be the breadwinner. It was just, it put people, anytime people think they've got one up or more leverage in an emotionally charged situation, that can't go good.
Power over the other, right?
Yeah.
Right, and again, we talked about that bottom line as a child. It's the child, and I know people, we've talked about this too. It's innate to love, and children need that love from both parents. It's not always possible.
To love and be loved. And what's important too is, in Kentucky, since the law passed there, since their law has been improved to the A, there is some reports that show, or statistics that show, that there's been 11% reduction in domestic violence, and they are attributing that to the fact that we've removed some of the conflict from the courtroom. So removing that conflict and not having that power struggle or that battle where you're trying to dissolve a marriage, but it eventually, or essentially, is dissolving the fiber of the family unit. And you might not live together, or mom and dad might not live together, or parents may not live together, but the kids still have two parents. So,
Right.
you know, if we can remove that conflict, it helps.
Yeah, and I would love to see the statistics in reference to teen suicide and in Kentucky compared with the rest of the United States.
I would love to see a lot of studies like that.
Yeah, I would too, and because again, we know how it correlates when we talk about even mass shootings, the percentage that didn't have
and the fatherless.
Families. Yeah, exactly, fatherless. So again, kids need that nurturing from both sides. I see my wife nuzzling, kissing my 9-year-old all the time, and I do the same. He needs that from both of us.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We learn different things from each parent, so right. I think it's very important. And you know, I've been on a couple of studies. My first study that I participated in was the what's it called? The parental abduction and the long-term effects. So this was a study based off of children that, you know, they're going through high conflict separation divorces, but it also involves being abducted by one of your parents. And people usually say, oh, well, it was one of your parents, so it really doesn't count. But it does, because the child is still ripped out of one world and put into another. And there's the long-term effects include identity crisis and emotional trauma that just never is resolved. So it goes on and on and on. And that's how we learn to deal with conflict, by not dealing with conflict. So this study was done in London. Well, it was done here, but for London, the Metropolitan University. I have yet to see an actual study done in the United States. So I'm hoping that we can find a way to, you know, I don't know what the best way or what the best demographic is to do that, but having studies basing on certain aspects like the long-term effects, but then also the suicide. And we already know that the parents, you know, the moms and dads, as far as suicide goes, that's already terrible. And now we're adding the child to that statistic.
Right.
We need to know what it is.
I love it that National Parents Organization is really bringing up the statistics, because, you know, we can be these voices in the wilderness. We could be this grassroots organization to try to make change. But truly, the change comes in the legislative ends, in the fact, and these studies that National Parents Organization are creating, these you know, report cards for each state. That's really something that I didn't always see. I mean, I've been in the movement for about 20 years, and you know, it was difficult to find anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, this Danica is really cool. I saw something now. They did the study how many years ago, John? The original, wasn't it just a few years ago?
I think it was. Oh man, if I'm wrong, I'm going to get in trouble.
See,
2014.
Right. Well, I remember seeing it not long after.
Yeah.
It was impressive.
And then last year.
To kind of get that gauge. And so to see again now, it's great to have that comparative when it's coming out again. See who we need to.
And you can see those improvements and the lack of improvement. And we have a lot of states that have no improvement. So those really need the focus. But I think that NPO. The more we grow, the more we become aware. You know, we're a grassroots organization in each of the states, right? So the more people that we can get involved and do some of these studies, and I don't know what the national, what their plans are as far as what studies they want to tackle first, but I definitely think it would help us to have these different statistics that we can use to show our lawmakers, hey, you know, this is how many people that this has happened to. And when you start talking volumes, it's harder and harder to ignore it. We have 25 million people now that are erased or missing their family members. 25 million. That number's gone up.
Unacceptable.
It is.
Unacceptable. That only word that comes to my mind, unacceptable. So, Dawn, awesome stuff. Danica.
Well, what I was going to say is one of our speakers, and I don't know that I really want to be at liberty to say who one of our speakers are, but they are I think right now, or have recently been in a court case defending a parent's right to be in the child's life, but the parent is defending themselves against the state because one parent already lost their rights to the child, so the child is in foster care, and this other parent is not an American citizen. So now this person who's not an American citizen is trying to fight and say, listen, this child has one parent who is capable and is not been abusive or neglectful. It's just, and I can't believe that that we're even having this discussion of
Me too.
all because the parent is not an American citizen.
And since when do you have to be a citizen to be a parent? So that's where, coming from the child's perspective, which is what I do, because I haven't been an alienated mom or involved in that aspect, but I have been that child. And I could care less if my parent was a member or a citizen or, had some kind of official membership to a group. It doesn't matter. They are your parent. That's their parent.
I tell you, the courts and the state have to get out of this subjective mindset. They have to get into this objective clarity. Are they a parent or are they not a parent? If they're abusive or neglectful, have they been deemed like guilty of that through dependency court?
So there's three things that stops parenthood, right? There's sexual abuse, physical abuse, and neglect. Everything else, there has to be some kind of mechanism in place that keeps parents intact. They're not bad parents just because they might have a drug abuse. They might have to have some parenting plans in place going through the dependency court to prove that they can, take care of these children, because that's the goal, right? That is the whole purpose is to protect the child. That's the best interest of the child. But everything else, you don't lose your children because of these things, these silly things that are a piece of paper or a membership.
Now, you mentioned that some of these states, how they're getting these A ratings with you all, and domestic violence, incidences of domestic violence are decreasing. And what I know is that's like a little magic bullet thing to pull is filing abuse allegations against your ex. And then, or requiring that if you want anything to do with my child, it has to be under supervised visitation. So now you're putting a shadow of doubt as far as their ability to parent on them, and now they're having to fight uphill against.
And it's so destructive, and if you were in a criminal court case, that wouldn't stand unless you had evidence, right? So for some reason, no evidence is required in family court. But if you've seen the movie Marriage Story, it shows you how two people that were going through a divorce were working it out until one of them decided, or one of their friends actually said, you need an attorney. And once the attorney stepped in, things started changing. And then when the one attorney saw that there was another attorney, then they started going full bore. And these people end up spending well over $200,000 for a divorce that they didn't need to litigate.
Well, I've said this before too, Dawn and Danica. Both sides, when you're, some of the battles are legitimate, obviously. I hate to
some of them are, yes.
But both sides, even the side that is throwing these silver bullets and thinks they're winning, they're both being played by the system. They want you to drag it on and fight. So when you think you're winning, you're just being a sucker. And the problem too is we have a lot, and not all, but we have a lot of these judges on the bench that are very insecure. They personalize.
It's financially conducive for them to do that.
Yeah, they put their right. So again, there's a variety, but the people out there, the great thing is we talked about Kentucky and these other things that are progressing. There is, again, as you said, Dawn, the wonderful word traction. And you can feel it. And when I saw the Kentucky news a while back, I remember I was like, whoa, it's happening. Here we go. Like, it's really, and you can feel it. We again, even we just talked about the Dad Talk Today Network and the shows on there and the excitement behind that and the other shows popping up all over the place, and the people not even just doing shows, just doing the work behind the scenes that you're doing and everybody else, that huge, important work. We're doing this.
Yeah. Yes, and it is important to state, you mentioned that some of these are very legitimate, and that is true, and I don't want to be insensitive to the fact that there are some real problems out there in some of these relationships, and those are the ones that need to actually be in the courts. They need to be in front of the judge so that there can be some safety mechanisms put into place to protect people, both one of the parents and the children of the marriage. So that definitely is there. But then there's a lot of other ones that we don't need to have that conflict in court when it's just an argument over who's the better parent.
Right. And as you mentioned, Dawn, we know there's a huge drug epidemic in this world. Get people up to the confidence level again where they can acknowledge those problems and have the confidence to fix themselves. And the problem is these programs out there are so overburdened with again, we won't get into that whole thing because that's the other, the legal drug dealers sometimes, the pushers that progress that sort of addictive behavior. But that's a whole show topic for another day. Dawn, this has been incredible. And I'm excited to meet you down in Florida.
Oh, I can't wait. It's so exciting. I keep thinking it's going to come really fast.
And it will, and it's going to be really great. The conference, one of the things, there's two things I wanted to point out. One is the conference is called Guardians and Gatekeepers Conference for professionals impacted by these high conflict families going through custody situations. And it is in Lakeland, Florida, April 24th and 25th. Over the next few weeks, we will spotlight a speaker from the conference and get a little taste of it, and also we'll tell you how to register for the conference. Second thing I wanted to point out is Dad Talk Today Network. We're the newbies on the block, the new show on the block with Dad Talk Today Network.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
I'm just so thrilled. You know what I love about it is I have for 20 years tried to align myself with like-minded people, like-minded advocates. I have reached out on a number of times to different groups when they got on my radar to figure out where they are, because I'm not all about stomping around and like hate and negativity. Like I really want to be to collaborate with people who are actually creating a solution, a positive solution for families. And I would say that Eric Carroll has curated several shows that are like-minded. They're all about positive outcomes for families. So
I think so too.
Yeah. Yes, the aforementioned Mark Ludwig has a show every week now. And again, there's some great shows on there. And we're very, very fortunate to be a part of it. And again, we talk a lot about as you talked about, Danica, aligning yourself. And why it works with Danica. I genuinely love Danica. And I know she genuinely loves me. We support each other. We want to see it succeed. We want to see everybody out there succeed.
Oh, you guys are awesome.
Yeah, and we're going to do that. Again, what the key word, folks, is love. And we're getting there, folks. Even the people that feel hopeless, we are the voice of the voiceless, and we're getting there.
Voice of the voiceless. And I love that we speak from love, is that can translate over so many barriers. If we all are coming from a position of love, there's no room for hate in this. There's already so much hate that we don't need anymore. So love it is.
You don't have, somebody said once, you don't have to go looking for love when love is where you come from.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Guess what time it is?
Already.
Yes.
Well, Danica and Dawn, it has been an absolute pleasure going out 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 8 o'clock p.m. Custody Matters live this week and every week Wednesday. Thank you, everybody out there, for joining us. Happy birthday to Mary Jane Rutledge, Parents United Worldwide. Everybody out there, chins up. It's not over until you say it's over. Custody Matters live. Thank you, everybody. Love you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. See you next week.
Bye.